Welcome to the Adult Sleep Stories podcast. It's a pleasure to have you here tonight. Before we begin, we encourage you to share where in the world you're listening from. It's always wonderful to know how our stories connect people across different places. As we settle in together for this special journey, I invite you to take a moment to find a comfortable position. Allow yourself to sink into the support beneath you, releasing any tension you may be carrying. As you listen to tonight's story, imagine each word gently washing over you, soothing your mind and easing away the stress of the day. With every breath, feel your worries melt away, replaced by a sense of calm and tranquility. Let your thoughts drift as we embark on this peaceful journey together, allowing your mind to unwind and your spirit to rest. Chapter 1. When the Market Slows. The sun hung low in the sky, a molten orb gilding the rooftops of Northbridge Hollow as it dipped behind the hills. Warm, golden light spilled across the cobblestone market square, illuminating the remnants of a bustling day. Crates lay strewn about, some knocked askew, while others rested like tired soldiers, emptied of their vibrant wares. The laughter and chatter that had filled the air now faded into a gentle rustling of cloth and the soft clinking of metal. It was closing time at the Northbridge Hollow market. Jesse Pearson stood behind his stall, a simple wooden setup that bore the marks of countless days spent under the sun. His hands moved with practiced ease, methodically packing away the handcrafted wooden goods that had drawn customers throughout the day. The scent of fresh produce mingled with the heady aroma of blooming flowers from the adjacent stalls, creating a nostalgic tapestry of smells that wrapped around him like a comforting blanket. He paused for a moment, taking a deep breath of the evening air, rich with promise and the faint hints of earth after a long day. "Jesse!" A voice pierced through the tranquil atmosphere, bright and familiar. It was Maxine Chasey, her tall figure a riot of color against the muted backdrop of closing stalls. She approached her flower stall, the vibrant blooms still captivating even as the sun began to surrender to twilight. "You're packing up early today. Save some for me, will you?" "Wouldn't dream of it, Maxine," Jesse replied, a smile tugging at the corners of his mouth. "Just trying to keep ahead of Cliff's cleanup crew. You know how he gets when he's in a hurry." He folded a cloth with deliberate care, the routine soothing to his spirit. Maxine laughed, her green eyes sparkling. "He's like a hawk, that one, always watching to make sure the market remains spotless. I swear he's got a sixth sense for stray flower petals." She leaned over her stall, her auburn hair catching the last rays of sunlight. "Did you see the way he nearly leapt at that kid who thought it was okay to toss an apple core onto the cobbles? More like a lion pouncing on an antelope," Jesse chuckled, shaking his head. "That kid won't make that mistake again anytime soon." They shared a moment of laughter, the kind that brightens the spirit after a long day. Jesse resumed packing, sliding a carved wooden bowl into a protective cloth. Each piece he wrapped carried a story, a memory from the countless hours spent in his workshop, the smell of sawdust and varnish mingling with the scent of pine. He thought of his father, the way he had taught Jesse to shape the wood as if it were an extension of himself, and of the market that had been their shared sanctuary. "How was your day?" Jesse asked, glancing over at Maxine as she began bundling unsold flowers into neat arrangements. "Oh, the usual. People falling in love with my peonies and then wondering how it'll fit into their budget," she replied, with a mock sigh, her hands deftly tying twine around a handful of delicate stems. "But I had a lovely couple stop by, wanted to surprise their daughter for her birthday. They picked the most vibrant bouquet I've ever made. It felt good to help them create a moment. Those are the moments that matter, Jesse said thoughtfully, wiping down his counter with a damp cloth. Sometimes it's easy to forget that this place is more than just a market. It's where lives intersect, where stories unfold. Maxine paused, her gaze flitting across the square, now beginning to quiet down. You know, I've always thought of the market as a living thing, she said, her voice softening. It breathes and changes with the seasons, just like us. It's comforting and terrifying all at once. Jesse nodded, the thought resonating deeply within him. As he wiped the last of the sawdust from the counter, he reflected on how the market had been a steady presence in his life amid personal changes, a constant in an ever-evolving world. The evening air began to cool, and the shadows stretched longer across the cobblestones, wrapping the square in a serene embrace. "Do you ever think about what happens when the stalls close?" Maxine asked suddenly, her tone shifting to something more contemplative. "When the laughter fades, and it's just us, the few who choose to stay behind?" "I do," Jesse admitted, leaning against the counter. "It's a different kind of magic, isn't it? The stillness that follows the chaos. It's like the market breathes in, drawing all the noise into itself before exhaling a calm that settles the nerves." Their conversation lingered in the air, infused with the fading light. Jesse watched as the last few vendors began to close their stalls, the familiar rhythm of their movements, soothing to him. Cliff Jackson, the market's maintenance overseer, was already making his rounds, his robust form moving through the square like a guardian. He waved at Jesse, a grin breaking through his grizzled beard. "Hey, Jesse, you're not going to leave me to clean up the entire place alone, are you?" Cliff bellowed, his deep voice echoing off the surrounding buildings. "I'd hate to have to drag you back here by your apron strings." "Just finishing up, Cliff," Jesse called back, a chuckle escaping his lips. "I wouldn't dream of leaving you to handle the remnants of Maxine's floral explosion alone." Cliff rolled his eyes, a twinkle of humor in his deep-set blue gaze. "I'll hold you to that. The last thing I need is for a rogue dandelion to take root overnight." Maxine laughed, the sound light and airy, and Jesse felt the warmth of camaraderie envelop them like the comforting glow of lanterns starting to illuminate the square. The soft light flickered to life, casting a golden hue across the cobblestones and enhancing the market's ethereal charm as dusk settled in. "Here's to the rogue dandelions and the stories they might tell," Maxine said, raising an imaginary glass. "To the stories," Jesse echoed, feeling a swell of gratitude for the community that had formed around this simple market, rooted in shared experiences and enduring connections. As the sun slid further below the horizon, Jesse took a moment to absorb the quiet beauty of the square. The bustling stalls that had once burst with life now stood empty, their colors dimmed but not forgotten. The gentle wind rustled through the trees lining the outskirts, whispering secrets of the day as it faded into night. "Sometimes I feel like we're just caretakers of this place," Maxine mused, looking around. "We come, we go, but the market, it remains. It's like it has a heartbeat of its own, you know?" "Yeah," Jesse said, his voice barely above a whisper. "It's a living tapestry of our lives, woven together by the threads of laughter, loss, and everything in between." He paused, his thoughts drifting to the future, to the changes that were inevitable, yet daunting. "I suppose it's the endings that make the beginnings worth it." Maxine nodded, her expression thoughtful. "You're right, it's the cycle of life. Just like flowers, there are seasons for blooming and seasons for resting." The last rays of sunlight slipped away, and as the twilight deepened, Jesse felt a peace settle within him, He finished packing away the last of his items, folding the final cloth with care. With each movement, he embraced the stillness around him, the tranquility that followed a busy day. "Looks like you've got everything squared away," Maxine said, glancing at his nearly empty stall. "You're ready to call it a day?" "Just about," Jesse replied, casting one last look at the market square, now softly illuminated by the lanterns. "I always feel a little bittersweet when it comes to closing time. It's the end of one chapter, but it also means a new one is waiting to begin." "Wise words, Jesse," Maxine said, her tone playful, yet sincere. "You should write those down. Maybe I'll even hang them in my stall as a reminder." Jesse laughed, the sound mingling with the gentle rustling of the evening breeze. "I'll consider it, but I think I'd rather stick to carving wood than writing poetry." As he stepped away from his booth, a sense of satisfaction washed over him. He took a deep breath, inhaling the cool evening air, letting it fill his lungs as he surveyed the now empty market square. The cobblestones glistened softly under the lantern light, the quiet beauty of the space inviting him to linger just a moment longer. "Good night, Jesse," Maxine called, her warm voice pulling him from his reverie. "See you tomorrow?" "Of course," he replied, giving her a wave as he turned to leave. "Don't let those flowers wilt without me." Jesse walked toward the edge of the square, feeling the weight of the day lift from his shoulders. The market would be waiting for him, ready to embrace him again with its vibrant life and collective stories. He stepped into the dusk, his heart full, knowing that while the day had come to an end, the magic of Northbridge Hollow would always endure, waiting to welcome him back, time and time again. Chapter 2: Familiar Endings. The Northbridge Hollow Market was a canvas painted with the warm hues of dusk. The sun sank low behind the rolling hills, casting long shadows across the cobblestone square. Jesse Pearson stood at his stall, the last of the day's sunlight glinting off the smooth surfaces of his handcrafted wooden goods. He methodically folded the last of his colorful cloths, the fabric soft from years of use, each crease telling a story of its own. The air was filled with the gentle rustle of leaves from the nearby sycamores, their leaves whispering secrets to one another in the evening breeze. "Looks like we might need to bring out the scarves soon," Maxine called out, her voice bright and teasing as she approached, balancing a bundle of unsold flowers in her arms. The vibrant colors of her stall, deep purples, fiery reds, and sunny yellows, were a stark contrast to the encroaching night. She wore a flowing dress adorned with floral prints, the hem swaying gently as she walked. Jesse looked up from his work, a smile creeping onto his face. "Or maybe a warm drink. It's nice to feel the evening settle in." He gestured towards the small cafe at the far end of the square, where the soft glow of lanterns hinted at warmth and comfort. Maxine chuckled, her green eyes sparkling. "I'll take both, please. A hot spiced cider and a cozy scarf. Maybe you can even knit me one?" She raised an eyebrow, a playful challenge glimmering in her gaze. "Knitting isn't exactly my forte, but I could try weaving one from this fine wood," he replied, a teasing smirk on his lips. "Wouldn't that be a sight?" Maxine laughed, the sound brightening the quiet square. "I can see it now, a wooden scarf that would surely win an award for creativity." She paused, tilting her head as she looked over his stall. "You should make a wooden flower arrangement next. I can picture it, a centerpiece that never wilts." As the banter flowed between them, Jesse felt the familiar warmth of camaraderie settle in his chest. This was their routine, these shared moments that wound like threads through the fabric of their lives. The market, with its vendors packing up their stalls, provided a rhythm that felt both comforting and predictable. But as he folded the cloths, Jesse's gaze drifted to the square, now growing emptier by the minute. He watched as the last of the vendors stowed away their goods, the sounds of laughter and chatter fading into the soft chirp of crickets. A sense of peace washed over him, mixed with a twinge of melancholy. This square had been a constant in his life, a refuge amid the changes of the outside world. He remembered the first time he had set up his stall after his father's passing. The weight of grief had felt unbearable, yet here, as the sun dipped below the horizon, he found solace in the wood he shaped and the stories he shared. It was a place where he could honor his father's legacy, crafting each piece as if he were weaving memories into the grains of the wood. "Are you all right?" Maxine asked, her voice softer now, pulling him from his reverie. "Just thinking," he replied, forcing a smile, "about how many evenings I've spent in this square. It's strange how familiar it feels, yet it's always changing." She nodded, her expression contemplative. "Change can be good, you know. I've been thinking about bringing in some exotic blooms next week. What do you think?" Jesse hesitated, a twinge of anxiety gripping him. "Change can be good," he echoed, his voice measured. "But sometimes I wonder if we need to shake things up too much." Maxine's eyes sparkled with enthusiasm. "But isn't that what keeps things interesting? The market can't always be the same. We need to evolve, Jesse, just like the flowers." He admired her passion. Maxine had a way of embracing change that he found both admirable and intimidating. The world was shifting, and while he clung tightly to his routines, she danced with the currents, ready to adapt. It was a quality he respected but also envied. "Maybe you're right," he conceded, forcing a chuckle. "But I still think I'll stick to my wooden creations for now." "Wood can be beautiful too," she said, her voice warm. "Just like the flowers, it tells a story." Before he could respond, a familiar figure lumbered into view, his silhouette outlined against the fading light. Cliff Jackson, the market's maintenance overseer, approached with his usual blend of dry humor and practicality. He was a robust man with a full beard graying at the temples, deep-set blue eyes sparkling with mischief. "You two are the last ones standing," Cliff exclaimed, his voice booming with joviality. "You know the lanterns won't check themselves." He gestured toward the lanterns hanging from the market's archway, their gentle glow beginning to flicker on. "Always the pragmatist, aren't you, Cliff?" Jesse replied, unable to suppress a grin. "It's part of the charm of the evening market." "Charm, yes, but it won't pay the bills," Cliff said, shaking his head in mock disapproval. "And you know the market doesn't like to be left in the dark. Now, come on, let's get these lanterns lit before the night creeps in." The three of them worked in comfortable silence, their movements synchronized from years of shared experience. Cliff climbed a small ladder to light the lanterns while Jesse and Maxine packed away their goods. The soft glow from the lanterns soon illuminated the square, casting long shadows and transforming the cobblestones into a tapestry of light and dark. "Thanks for always keeping this place in shape, Cliff," Maxine said, her voice sincere as she looked up at him. "Someone's got to do it," he said, stepping down from the ladder. "And I wouldn't have it any other way. This market is a piece of our history, after all. It's important we keep it alive for the next generation." Jesse nodded, feeling a swell of gratitude. "I can't imagine this place without you, Cliff. You make it feel like home." Cliff chuckled, his eyes twinkling with warmth. "You're not so bad yourself. Just remember, even the best wood needs a little care to last." As the last of the vendors departed, leaving behind empty stalls and echoes of laughter, Jesse took a moment to breathe in the cool evening air. The scent of freshly turned earth mixed with the fragrant remnants of flowers hung in the air, a reminder of the day's vibrancy. "Tomorrow will be another day," Jesse said, more to himself than anyone else. "Another chance to create," Maxine smiled, her enthusiasm undeterred. "And I'll have those exotic blooms ready for you to see. You won't regret it." He chuckled, watching as she carefully bundled her last flowers, packing them away with the tenderness of someone who cherished each petal. "I'll look forward to it, Maxine. Just promise me you'll keep an open mind," she urged, her voice earnest. "Deal," he replied, surprising himself with the ease of his agreement. Perhaps change wasn't all that terrifying, especially when it came wrapped in the promise of new beginnings. As she waved goodbye, her silhouette framed by the lantern light, Jesse took a final look across the square. It was empty now, the calm settling in like a warm blanket. The sounds of the market had faded into the distance, leaving only the gentle hum of the evening. He felt the weight of the day lift, replaced by a sense of anticipation. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new opportunities, a chance to embrace the changing tides. With a deep breath, Jesse turned away from the square, his heart lighter than it had been in some time. The night was young, and with it came the promise of familiar endings and the dawning of new beginnings. Chapter 3. The Square After Daylight. The sun dipped below the horizon, dragging its orange and purple brushstrokes across the sky as Northbridge Hollow's market square began its slow transformation from day to night. Shadows stretched long and languid over the cobblestones, their edges softened by the fading light. The air, once tinged with the sweet scent of ripe apples and freshly baked bread, now held a coolness that whispered of evening's arrival. Jesse Pearson leaned against the wooden frame of his stall, taking a moment to breathe in the shifting ambiance. The chatter of departing customers faded into a gentle hush, and the air felt thicker, almost electric, as if the very essence of the square was alive, absorbing the remnants of the day. He ran a hand through his short, curly hair, the gray strands catching the last rays of sunlight, and surveyed the field of emptying stalls. The vibrant colors of his crafted wooden goods, each piece a small testament to his father's legacy, seemed to dim alongside the day, losing their luster in the twilight. "Evening's sneaking up on us, isn't it?" Cliff Jackson's voice broke through the stillness, rich and grounded like the earth itself. The robust figure of the market's maintenance overseer approached with a deliberate pace, steady as the rhythm of the seasons. He carried a broom slung over one shoulder and a lantern in his other hand, its glass surface catching the last glimmers of sunlight. Jesse nodded, a smile creeping onto his face. "Looks like the sun's had enough for today. I can't blame it." He gestured toward the horizon. "That view is a hard act to follow." Cliff chuckled, his deep-set blue eyes twinkling with warmth. "The evening air feels different, doesn't it? It's as if the square lets out a sigh of relief." He paused, sweeping the area with the broom. The soft bristles brushed against the cobblestones, creating a gentle rhythm that echoed the heartbeat of the market. A good day's work behind us, and we get to enjoy the quiet. Jesse watched as Cliff began to light the lanterns that dotted the square, each flicker igniting a soft glow that filled the gathering dusk. The warm light spilled out like honey, casting gentle shadows that danced playfully across the cobblestones and lending the square an inviting aura. "It's beautiful, isn't it, how the lanterns breathe life into the square?" Jesse remarked, his voice tinged with nostalgia. "It's like they're old friends, welcoming the night." Cliff's laughter rumbled softly, a sound that seemed to belong to the earth itself. More reliable than the sun, I'd say. They're always here when we need them. He reached up to light another lantern, the flame flickering eagerly to life. You know, Jesse, this square has seen as many endings as beginnings. Each evening, it transforms, and every vendor who packs up brings a new story to tomorrow. Jesse's gaze drifted over the now familiar stalls, their vibrant awnings slowly collapsing into quiet repose. Maxine Chasey was at her flower stall, gathering the last of her blooms, her auburn hair catching the glow from a nearby lantern. He admired her deft hands as she tied bundles of lavender with twine, the scent wafting through the air, mingling with the cooling breeze. It's strange how much I can feel in a single evening, he said, turning back to Cliff. The square holds memories, don't you think? Aye, Cliff replied, leaning against the broom as he surveyed the scene. And it holds promise, too. Every farewell brings a chance for something new. His eyes softened as he glanced at Jesse. You remember when you first took over your father's stall? That was a fine beginning. Jesse chuckled, his heart warm at the memory. I was terrified. Didn't think I could fill his shoes. He paused, the nostalgia deepening. But I had you and Maxine right there, reminding me it was about the community, not just the goods. Exactly, Cliff nodded, his voice steady. And you've done well, Jesse. The people trust you. You've become part of their stories. He resumed sweeping, the soft sound of the broom against the cobblestones, creating a comforting melody as the square emptied. As the last remnants of the day melted into twilight, Jesse finished packing away the last of his wares. Each piece of wood felt like a part of him, imbued with memories and stories. He took a deep breath, absorbing the stillness that settled over the square, the kind that felt sacred. The vibrant sounds of the day had faded, leaving behind a peaceful hush that invited reflection. Maxine approached, her flower-strewn apron dusted with petals. Jesse, she called, her voice bright even in the dimming light. You should have seen the look on Mrs. Hargrove's face when she got her bouquet. I swear she thought I'd plucked the stars from the sky. She chuckled, her bright green eyes sparkling. Did she tell you her secret? Jesse asked, an amused grin spreading across his face. That every flower has a meaning? Maxine nodded enthusiastically. Yes, and I told her that the daisies represent new beginnings. She nearly teared up. Her smile faded slightly, and she glanced around the emptying square. It's hard to see it go quiet like this. Jesse understood that sentiment all too well. It is, but isn't it comforting? Each ending feels like a promise of tomorrow. He gestured toward the lanterns that now flickered brightly, illuminating the square with a soft glow. We have the chance to start again. Maxine's expression brightened, and she nodded. You're right, and who knows what tomorrow may bring? New faces, new stories. She glanced at Cliff, who was still methodically sweeping, and added, and Cliff's always here to keep things in line. True enough, Cliff interjected dryly, a teasing smile on his lips as he swept aside a few stray leaves. Someone has to keep you all in check. He paused, leaning on his broom. But you two are the heart of this square. It wouldn't be the same without your spirit. Jesse felt a swell of gratitude at Cliff's words. Thanks, Cliff. That means a lot. He turned his gaze back to the square, taking in its familiar contours, where the vendors stood, the spots where laughter echoed, the corners where memories lingered. It's strange how something so simple can hold so much. As the last lanterns flickered on, the square was fully bathed in a serene light. Jesse stood at the threshold, feeling the calm settle in as if the market itself were embracing him. He took one last look around, the shadows now fully alive, whispering the stories of the day. The echoes of laughter and conversation had faded, but there was a sense of peace in the stillness, a quiet promise of continuity. "Good night, old friend," Jesse whispered to the square, letting the words hang in the air. He felt a sense of closure wash over him, a gentle reminder that endings were merely transitions. He turned back toward Cliff and Maxine, ready to leave the space behind, yet carrying it with him. "See you both tomorrow?" he asked, a note of anticipation threading through his voice. "Of course," Maxine replied, her spirit undeterred. "I'll have a new arrangement for you to see, one that tells a story." "I'll expect nothing less," Jesse said, chuckling. Cliff nodded, his face serious yet kind. "I'll be here to make sure the square is ready for you both." As Jesse walked away from the square, the lanterns flickering softly behind him, he felt the weight of the day lift, replaced by the promise of tomorrow. The evening air wrapped around him like a familiar blanket, and he realized that endings weren't to be lamented but celebrated. Each night would give birth to a new dawn, a new market, and new stories waiting to be told. In the distance, the first stars began to twinkle in the velvet sky, and Jesse reveled in the magic of the moment, the quiet strength of the square, the bonds of friendship, and the joy of a community that thrived on connection. Tomorrow awaited, and he was ready to embrace it. Chapter 4. Packing away the day. The sun dipped low over Northbridge Hollow, casting the market square in hues of amber and lavender. Long shadows unfurled across the cobblestones, where remnants of the day's bustle lingered in the air, mixing with the fragrant scents of fresh produce and the floral notes wafting from Maxine's stall. Jesse Pearson stood behind his booth, the familiar wooden counter cool against his palms as he methodically folded his cloths. Each fold was a ritual, a small act of closure that brought him comfort. "Just like that, one corner at a time," he muttered, a soft smile lifting the corners of his mouth as he recalled his father's patient hands teaching him the same process. The cloths, dyed in rich browns and forest greens, were a testament to his craftsmanship, each one a piece of a legacy woven with care. As he stacked the last of the crates, he paused to wipe down the counter, his rag catching on a small scratch in the wood. "Ah, that one's from the time the wind knocked over the display," he chuckled to himself, conjuring the memory of a particularly blustery autumn day. He could almost hear Maxine's laughter as she helped him pick up the scattered wooden trinkets, her auburn hair whipping around her face like a banner. The market had been full that day, the air electric with the anticipation of a storm. It was moments like those that stitched the fabric of his life together, fleeting but significant. Jesse glanced around the square, now transitioning from the vibrancy of day to the serene embrace of evening. Vendors were packing up their stalls, the sounds of rustling paper and clattering crates mingling with quiet conversations. The atmosphere shifted, a gentle sigh of relief as the last customers departed, leaving the market to its nightly peace. The flickering of lanterns began as the sun surrendered to twilight, casting a warm glow over the cobblestones. Jesse took a moment to breathe in the familiar scents, the earthy aroma of vegetables mingled with the sweet fragrance of Maxine's flowers, a combination that felt like home. He stood there, holding the rag in one hand, his heart swelling with nostalgia and contentment. "Guess it's that time again, huh?" he said aloud, addressing the empty stalls as if they could respond. He knew the routine well. Pack, clean, and finally, a last look around. It was a ritual that grounded him, a routine that brought stability amidst the ever-changing currents of life. Jesse finished wiping the counter and set the rag aside. As he surveyed the market, he felt a bittersweet ache in his chest. Over the years, he had witnessed the ebb and flow of vendors. Some had come and gone, their laughter and stories fading into memory. Others, like Cliff and Maxine, remained steadfast, anchors in the shifting tides. He thought of old Tim, the fishmonger, who had taught him how to properly fillet a fish, and the way the sun glinted off the scales, 1,000 tiny mirrors reflecting life. "Here's to you, Tim," he whispered, raising an invisible glass in tribute. His thoughts drifted to the new vendors who had taken over Tim's spot, their enthusiasm palpable, but lacking the seasoned warmth that came with years of shared stories and laughter. Change was inevitable in the market, just as the seasons turned. Yet Jesse found solace in the constancy of the space itself. The market was more than just a place to sell goods. It was a living tapestry of lives intertwined, a shared heartbeat that pulsed through the cobblestones. Lost in his musings, Jesse didn't notice Cliff approach until he heard the familiar sound of heavy boots crunching on gravel. "Evening, Jesse," Cliff called out, his deep voice cutting through the tranquil air. The robust figure of the maintenance overseer appeared, his beard flecked with silver, eyes twinkling with mischief. He wore his usual cargo pants and work shirt, the fabric slightly worn but sturdy, just like him. "Hey, Cliff, how's the night treating you?" Jesse replied, straightening up from his packing. "Not too shabby. Just finished checking the lights. Last thing we need is a dark corner where someone trips and falls," Cliff said, motioning to the lanterns that began to illuminate the square. "You know how it is. Always something to fix around here." Jesse chuckled, nodding in agreement. "You've got the heart of a gardener, always tending to the roots of this place." Cliff smirked, his blue eyes sparkling with affection. "And you've got the hands of a craftsman. Everything looks good from here." He gestured to Jesse's neatly stacked crates and folded cloths. "You should see Maxine's stall. She's outdone herself with those flower arrangements today. Let me guess, she's trying to woo the customers with her blooms again?" Jesse raised an eyebrow, a teasing grin forming on his lips. "More like trying to win over the bees," Cliff replied, with a dry chuckle. "You know, she says they're the best judges of beauty. I think she's just trying to keep her own spirits high." Jesse appreciated Cliff's straightforwardness, the way he wove humor into their conversations like a skilled artisan. "I can't blame her. There's something about this place that feels extra alive in the evenings, don't you think?" Cliff nodded, glancing around the square. "Aye, it's like the market breathes a sigh of relief after a long day. You can feel it in the air." He paused for a moment, his gaze shifting toward the empty stalls. "But you know, Jesse, it's also a reminder that change is coming. The market's been through a lot, and it'll keep evolving, whether we like it or not." Jesse felt a flicker of unease at the prospect. "I know, I just wish it didn't feel so final sometimes." Cliff placed a reassuring hand on Jesse's shoulder, the weight of their shared history settling between them. "You've got roots here too, Jesse. This place wouldn't be the same without you. Just remember, even as things change, you're part of what keeps the heart of the market beating." With those words, Jesse felt a warmth spreading through him, a sense of belonging that wrapped around him like a well-worn blanket. He knew Cliff was right. He had cultivated relationships here that ran deeper than mere commerce. "Thanks, Cliff. I needed to hear that," he replied, his voice steady. "I guess I'm just getting a bit sentimental as the years pass." "Nothing wrong with that," Cliff said, chuckling softly. "Just means you care, but let's not forget, we've got a community here, and it's as strong as oak. We'll weather whatever comes." As if on cue, a light breeze rustled through the square, making the lanterns sway gently, casting playful shadows on the cobblestones. Jesse took a deep breath, allowing the cool air to fill his lungs. "Ready to pack it in for the night?" Cliff asked, eyeing the remaining items on Jesse's stall. "Just about. I'll take one last look around before I head out," Jesse replied, feeling a familiar sense of closure wash over him. "Sure thing. I'll catch you at the pub later," Cliff called over his shoulder as he turned to head toward the exit of the square. "Count on it," Jesse replied, watching as Cliff ambled away, his figure silhouetted against the soft glow of the lanterns. Jesse stood alone for a moment longer, taking in the now empty square. The cobblestones gleamed under the lantern light, each stone a witness to the day's joys and trials, laughter and farewells. He wandered to the edge of his stall, letting his fingers brush over the smooth wood of the counter, feeling the grain beneath his touch. As the last light of day faded, he turned to face the square, allowing himself to soak in the tranquility of the evening. It was a moment suspended in time, a quiet beauty that felt almost magical against the backdrop of the night sky. He whispered a silent thanks to the market for another day well spent, for the connections made, the stories exchanged, and the memories woven into the fabric of his life. Taking a deep breath, Jesse felt a weight lift from his shoulders, a flicker of acceptance igniting within him. Change was inevitable, and while it brought uncertainty, it also heralded new beginnings. He stepped away from the stall, glancing back at the lanterns illuminating the square. For now, everything was as it should be, calm, quiet, and filled with promise. Jesse turned on his heel and walked toward the exit, the sound of his boots echoing softly on the cobblestones, leaving behind the echoes of a day that would soon become a cherished memory. As he stepped into the night, he looked back one last time. The market rested in silence, a contrast to the vibrancy of the day. It was a moment of peace, a lull before the next chapter began. He smiled, feeling a quiet satisfaction wash over him, ready to embrace whatever awaited him in the days to come. Chapter 5. A Square at Rest. The last rays of sunlight dipped below the horizon, casting a soft amber glow over Northbridge Hollow's market square. Jesse stood silently at his now emptied stall, a gentle breeze rustling the colorful remnants of the day, a few stray petals, a discarded piece of twine, and the faint scent of wood shavings lingering in the air. The lanterns that lined the square flickered to life one by one, casting a warm, inviting light that danced on the cobblestones, transforming the once boisterous market into a tranquil haven. "Another day in the books, Jesse," he muttered to himself, the words a soft sigh escaping his lips as he surveyed the space. His stall, once a hub of laughter and chatter, now stood bare, the polished wooden crafts he had spent countless hours carving gone to new homes. The bittersweet pang of closure tugged at him, but it was a familiar feeling, like an old friend wrapping him in a warm embrace. He could hear the faint chirping of crickets and the soft rustle of leaves in the trees above as they whispered secrets of the night. The square, so full of life just hours ago, now exuded a peaceful stillness that Jesse cherished. It reminded him of the cycles of life, the rhythm of day yielding to night, and how every ending invited a new beginning. From behind him, he heard the familiar jingle of Maxine's flower cart wheels. She approached, her arms laden with vibrant bouquets, the colors still vivid against the dusk. "Hey, Jesse," she called, her voice brightening the cool evening air. "You'd think I'd learned to stop bringing so many flowers, but look at these beauties. I've got a couple of bunches left over. Want one?" Jesse turned, a smile breaking through his contemplative demeanor. "You know I prefer them in the ground rather than in a vase, Maxine, but I appreciate the offer. What's the story behind these?" He gestured to the riot of colors, the petals shimmering in the lantern light like jewels. Maxine chuckled, her green eyes sparkling. "This one here," she said, holding up a bundle of fiery orange lilies, "was meant for Mrs. Hargrove. She wanted something bright to celebrate her anniversary, but she got stuck at the bakery. I couldn't wait forever." "Sounds like a missed opportunity," Jesse replied, leaning against the edge of his stall, the wood cool against his back. "You should have taken them to the bakery. I hear their pastries are nearly as sweet as you." "Flattery will get you everywhere, Jesse." She laughed, tucking a loose strand of auburn hair behind her ear. "But seriously, today was surprisingly good. I thought with the rain this morning hardly anyone would show up. Turns out, people love flowers, rain or shine." Jesse nodded, his heart warmed by her enthusiasm. "You always have a way of bringing joy into this square. It's what you do best." Maxine beamed, the kind of light that made the lantern seem dim in comparison. "And you, my friend, are the heart of this place. Those wooden toys you carve, they're not just toys, you know. They're memories waiting to happen." The compliment sat with him, heavy yet comforting. "I like to think each piece carries a bit of magic," he said, gesturing vaguely toward the now empty stall. "A story waiting to be told." "Speaking of stories," Maxine continued, her playful tone shifting to curiosity, "did you get to hear anything interesting today? Any wild customers?" Jesse chuckled, recalling a particularly lively interaction with a group of children who had been captivated by his wooden animals. "You mean other than the usual, 'can I have a discount?' And is this one really made of wood?" "Exactly," she said, eyes wide with anticipation. "Well, there was a little girl, probably no older than 6, who had the most imaginative story about my wooden fox. She insisted it was the guardian spirit of the market, watching over all the vendors. She even named it, something like Foxy McGuard." He laughed again, and Maxine joined in, the sound echoing softly through the square. "Foxy McGuard? I love it. I might have to make a sign for my stall. All flowers are protected by Foxy McGuard. Just make sure you keep him away from the daisies. They're notoriously grumpy about sharing their spotlight," Jesse quipped, his eyes twinkling with mischief. As their laughter faded, Cliff emerged from the shadows, his robust silhouette framed by the flickering lanterns. "What's all this chatter about guardian foxes?" he asked, a glimmer of amusement in his deep-set blue eyes. "Just a bit of market magic," Jesse replied, gesturing toward Maxine. "You know how she is with her flowers and stories." Cliff chuckled, his beard quivering like a bush in the wind. "Some say the market has its own spirit, but I think it's the people that keep it alive. Speaking of which, I'm just finishing up my final checks before closing up for the night." He began adjusting the lanterns, ensuring they were secure and casting light where it was needed. "Need any help?" Jesse offered, stepping forward, eager to contribute to the familiar ritual of closing down the market. "Always could use an extra pair of hands," Cliff replied, his voice steady and reassuring. "The way this place has changed over the years, it's important to keep the heart of it beating, and that means making sure it's tidy before we leave. Gotta keep the spirit happy, you know?" "Absolutely," Jesse agreed, feeling a swell of pride for the little square that had become a sanctuary for so many. As they worked together, Jesse listened to Cliff reminisce about the market's past, the vendors who had come and gone, the festivals that had transformed the square into a colorful tapestry of life. Remember when we had that apple festival? The whole place was packed, and there was that one guy trying to juggle apples. Cliff laughed, shaking his head at the memory. He ended up dropping one right into my booth, and I nearly lost my mind. But by the end of the day, we were all laughing about it. Yeah, and you nearly made him clean your whole stall, Jesse added, grinning. I thought you were going to put him to work. Cliff chuckled again, the sound deep and rich like the earth itself. You know, it's those moments that matter, the chaos, the laughter. But it's nice to have these quiet evenings too. It's like the square takes a deep breath, readying itself for another day. Jesse paused, leaning against the edge of his stall, absorbing the stillness around them. It's beautiful, isn't it? The way the square transforms from the chaos of the day to this peaceful refuge at night. He gestured to the now empty stalls, the clean pathways, and the gentle rustling leaves. It's a reminder that every ending is just a pause before something new begins. Cliff nodded, his face softening at Jesse's words. You've grown wise, my friend. It's those reflections that keep us grounded. In a world that keeps changing, we need those anchors. He turned to Maxine, who had been listening quietly, a smile on her face. And we've got you to keep the flowers blooming, right? She laughed, a warm, bright sound. Absolutely. I'll make sure to keep the spirit of the square alive with colors and joy. As they finished their tasks, Jesse's gaze drifted over the square, now a canvas of shadows and soft light. The transition from the vibrant energy of the day to this serene stillness struck him deeply. It was a reminder of the duality of life, how chaos could yield to calm, how laughter could blend into silence. Good night, Cliff, Maxine said, her voice soft as she gathered her flower cart. See you tomorrow? Wouldn't miss it for the world, Cliff replied, giving her a mock salute. Take care of those flowers, Maxine, Jesse said. And don't let Foxy McGard get too jealous. With a final wave, Maxine disappeared down the cobblestone path, her cart rolling smoothly behind her. Jesse and Cliff stood together for a moment, the peacefulness settling around them like a comforting blanket. Do you ever think about how lucky we are? Cliff asked, breaking the silence. Every day, Jesse replied truthfully. This market, the people, the stories we share, it's a life well lived. Cliff chuckled again, his laughter mixing with the chorus of crickets. You know, tomorrow's another market day, a chance for more stories, more laughter. The square will be bustling again before we know it. Jesse nodded, feeling the anticipation build within him. Tomorrow will bring its own magic, just like tonight brings its own peace. As they turned to leave, Jesse took one last look at the square, the lanterns casting a soft glow that made the cobblestone shimmer like stars. He felt a deep gratitude swell in his heart, not just for the market, but for the connections he had forged, the memories he had created, and the life he was building piece by piece. With one last glance back, he walked away, leaving the market to rest in its tranquil slumber, a promise of dawn lingering in the air. The cycle of life continued, and with it, the hope of new beginnings whispered through the quiet night. Thank you for joining us this evening as we shared tonight's story. We hope that, as you listened, you found yourself gently transported to a place of tranquility and warmth. Our wish is that the tale brought you a sense of calm and comfort, helping to ease away the stresses of the day. May the soothing words linger with you, offering reassurance and peace as you prepare for a restful night ahead. Until next time, wishing you a peaceful night and the sweetest of dreams.